at the marks and the maths. This is not about bombarding people with messages. This is about making marketing for people. Because I think if you start talking about and making people to the heroes in your communication, if you start to make them the central thing, and you take out the things that matter to people, like maybe that mother who's concerned about her kid maybe getting too much sugar in that box of cereal, think about issues like that. And let's just try to explore that for a moment, okay? So it's really, really simple. What I want you to do is just raise your hand if this is something that you are concerned about, something that you think about in your daily lives, okay? It's pretty simple. So who of you would actually like to exercise more in your daily lives? Let me see some hands up. Okay, quite a few of you, okay. Who worry about too much sugar, fat, and salt in the food you're eating on a daily basis? Is that something you're concerned about? Okay. Who worry about your own country's economy at this point? Yeah. Who worry about a refugee crisis at the moment in Europe? Anybody worried about that? You know, and I think every one of these hands has really a potential to start conversations with people about stuff that matters, and that's still linked to your product. You know, I think what brands used to be, they used to be heroes. They used to be heroes in people's lives, and I think it's about time that you reclaim that role, because it really makes a difference. And you know a lot of these cases, like P&G, if you look at the Like a Girl campaign and the amazing journey they have been on. You know, they used to do this kind of blue ink mad scientist stuff, and suddenly they're empowering young women, and young women that's probably in one of their most vulnerable ages. Or Samsung, who's improving traffic safety. So suddenly communication can make a difference. Burger King talking about gay rights and same-sex marriage. Or Chipotle. And this really makes a difference because it's good business to do this stuff. Steve Ellis, when he did the first Chipotle restaurant in 1991, he had a mission to create food with integrity. And that's a powerful story to tell, because you're telling a differentiating story, and you're telling a story about care. And I think it's really simple when we talk about these things that can seem so complex. It really is simple. I think if you show care to people, people will care about you. And that's our role as creators, to make them care. And there's so much stuff that brands can do. Even a brand like G-Star, taking plastic from the oceans and turning it into a beautiful collection. And this is not just about the relationship between consumers. This is also how business is changing. So if you want to respond to your clients' demands, you have to think about this stuff. I don't know how many of you know this guy, Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks. Why is he on Time magazine? And what does Starbucks know about America? It used to be the role of governments to know something about America, didn't it? But he knows a lot about America because he works on education, homelessness, American vets. So these are businesses that are stepping in to solve some of the problems that we're facing. So no brand today can be that little island, you know, you have to be part of society. And as advertisers, we've always been part of the cultural context. And these are the stories, these are the new narratives, and you have to relate to those narratives. It used to be that a CEO would maybe be on stage and only talk about economics. But a guy like Paul Polman, when he goes on stage, he talks about things like reinventing consumption. And again, you guys can help him do that. But he also talks about how that is good for business. You know, doubling growth while having an environmental impact. So these are complete new challenges for you guys to think about. And what better guy to say it than Richard Branson, that says, you know, doing good is good for business. And if we look to the broader community, religious front figures actually, for the first time, actually joining forces to solve some of these issues. A guy like Pope Francis, 1.2 million Catholics, it really makes a difference. So some of these guys are standing up to the challenges, and it is good business. In Cannes this year, Keith Weed stood on stage in Cannes Lions, and he shared the good business case of this stuff. Because he said, Unilever is a sustainable brand, actually grows twice as fast as its conventional brands, and today make up more than half the profit of Unilever. So this makes good business sense. So these are, of course, campaigns where brands, for the most part, use their voice impact to make a difference. And companies want you to take part in this. But what I want you to do is take a step further and think about the impact. How can you really improve people's lives? You know, where can you impact most people? How can you change behavior? That's the stuff that's really exciting. And those solutions you absolutely don't find in an Ads of the World magazine, contemporary art museum. You have to go out there and leave the office. And leave the office as much as you can, because out there is the real life. That's the life of you and me and all other people. And try to look at things that you can actually solve. Maybe start with yourself and say, what actually annoys you in your daily life? Or in your neighborhood, or your community, in your country, in the world. Start with that as your creative starting point. And there's so many interesting solutions popping up everywhere these days. For example, a phone company who's invented a smart board. I'm a surfer, so I'm a little bit afraid of sharks, but I absolutely also love them. To be honest, they're an important part of the ocean's food chain. This idea saves beachgoers and it saves sharks. So it has an impact. It does leave an impact. Well, this one here, from a medical company. So many people today either take the wrong dosage or the wrong pills. What they have done is create this magnificent app combined with an iPhone cover, so you make sure that people take the right pills at the right time, saving people and money. Or what about inventing a day? Probably most of you know this thing, but the impact, think about the billions of dollars that's put into these small businesses. And in a country like the US that's so dominated by morals, it makes a difference. And I don't know when you actually had a president endorsing your campaign. Barack Obama has actually endorsed this, and now it's an annual day in the US. I think that's absolutely fascinating what our industry can do. Let me show you another example. It's from India, where they don't have any sort of recycling capabilities. So for a brand like Coca-Cola, it's of course not good to have the packaging lying all around the place. So what they have done is, they have created these arcade game machines, and instead of a coin insert, you can actually put in a PET plastic bottle. So you reward people with fun. This is a great idea, and I'm so ashamed that it actually only ran for about 2 weeks. This could be scaled up and could make even more impact. So also think about that part. But what about saving bicyclists, as Life Paint, the Volvo one? You probably know this case as well. Well, this one is really actually quite intriguing. It's McDonald's. We know the Happy Meal, right? And normally you'd get this plastic fantastic toys and their Happy Meals. But what they have done is they've actually put in children books by famous children authors. And it started out in Sweden and it's now spread to quite a few markets. I don't know if it's here in Belgium or not. And a while ago, I sat down with an executive from McDonald's in Denmark. It's quite a small market, 5.6 million people. And maybe a best-selling author there, if you're a lucky children's author, you might sell, 2,000-3,000 children's books. And the author was in there at the McDonald's headquarters as well, and she shared the story with me that the McDonald's exec meeting with the author, and the author said, so how many books are you actually distributing? 400,000 children's books. So that's the impact of business, and that's the impact of brands, and that's what you guys can do. But it really demands a change of mindset. It really demands a change of mindset instead of just pushing stuff out there. We don't need bigger Cocoa Pops, loopholes, or whatever that is. It's about making things that people actually really need. So think about how you can deliver on those needs. And I also want to raise another question, because one thing is thinking about the impact, but another question I want you to think about really is why you actually creative. Why are you creative? Why do you work in marketing? Why do you work in communications? Why do you work in advertising? For you? What is it that drives you? I think it's an important question to ask yourself. It was one of the questions that I asked myself. I don't know if you've seen this story about Lynch, a 52-year-old New Zealand art director. And he died at an early age of cancer, unfortunately, at age 52. When he was lying on his deathbed, he actually started thinking about his life in advertising. And he kind of thought that he wasted his life a little bit. And he asked the big one question, is that, can you actually marry art and business and still get a meaningful, purposeful life? And I actually think you can. I think you can, today you can do that. You can leave a positive legacy. Yes, you can sell 1 billion diapers, but at the same time you can improve sanitation, you can fight cholera. So we have quite an interesting point of time in history, to be honest. Because doing good can be good for business. And you can do that stuff. When I wrote my book, Goodvertising, I interviewed quite a lot of advertising people and marketing people. And one of the guys that I interviewed was Alex Bogowski, and some of you might know him. He was one of the founders behind Crispin, Porter and Bogowski. He's not there anymore. One of the things that made and really changed his life and changed the direction of his life was that he thought at one point his children is going to ask him, you know, Dad, you knew the world was a shitbag, but what did you do about it? So that was the question that kind of sparked his development. And at one point, you're going to have the same question. Your kids are going to ask you that same question. And I really do hope that the Eurobest statuette that you hopefully will win both had a positive side to it and build the brand and build stronger relations. And I know I talk a lot about, purpose and meaning, and it can all seem a little bit overwhelming. But to be honest, not that many people get born with a purpose. I didn't get born with a purpose. I worked in that industry for 10, 15 years. Purpose is something you take. It's something where you say, I want to stand up for this thing. I want to make a meaningful difference. And it also comes from the brands you're working with. I so often work with corporates that says, yeah, but we don't have this proud heritage like guys like Kellogg's actually used to have. They invented it at a health sanatorium, but they kind of lost that along the way. What I want you to encourage them to do is really say, it's never too late to stand up and make a difference. And I think some of the campaigns that you saw here today really do that. So what I want you to do here today is, together with me, actually take a little pledge. Are you up for that? Because two things that you need to remember today is moving away from being part of the problem to start actually being part of the solution. So what I want you to do together with me is say these two sentences, okay? I've been part of the problem, I want to be part of the solution. It's really simple, okay? So I'm going to count down to 3. So 3, 2, 1. I have been part of the problem. I don't think anybody believed you. Come on. Honestly. But I'm not sure he could even hear it. He's still texting anyway. Let's try again, okay? And try to say the conviction, okay? The same conviction you had when I said, you guys are so creative. I want that conviction, okay? So 3, 2, 1. I have been part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. Perfect, great. That felt good, didn't it? So anyway, here are 5 what I call Goodvertising hacks on how you can change advertising into Goodvertising, okay? But what I also want to encourage you to do and invite you to do is really go and change the world, because you can do it. Use your voice as a consumer, use your voice as a citizen to voice up for change. As a professional, think about how you can advocate for change, because it's a new world out there and it really needs your help. And for me, and why I'm so fascinated and actually still proud to be part of the advertising community and the marketing community, is that because we have one big raison d'etre, we have one good reason to exist, and that's our creativity. And I'm so amazed with some of the stuff that you guys can do. Come up with creative solutions where there seem to be none. So go and explore that. And when you get that big question from your children one day, at least you can say you tried. And I think that is sometimes good enough. when I started out, or, you know, I don't know, there weren't that much of the Apple commercial that kind of ran. I don't know if you remember the Richard Dreyfuss one that was playing when I was walking on stage. I really liked that one, and the end of that narration really goes that the people who believe they can change the world are the ones who does, and I really believe that you guys can change the world. So thank you so much, and do reach out with any questions. I'm normally pretty good at responding to my Twitter, so thank you so much, and go change the world.
Thank you, Thomas. Big round of applause for Thomas there. Thank you, man. That was great. Okay.